All right. Well, I'm thrilled today to have former head coach of mine from high school, Jeff Hollenbach, and he's also the current mayor of Perkasie. Played football at Pennridge, went on to Illinois, had a little stint with the Steelers. And Coach, it's a pleasure.
It's just really great to be here. I'm honored that you guys asked me to spend some time with you.
Yeah, so let's talk football. We're right in the middle of bowl season here coming out, right? You got your son played at Maryland for Coach James Franklin. Penn State's in a big bowl game. Got my alma mater, Liberty, playing the Oregon Ducks in the Fiesta Bowl out in Arizona, and the Villanova just made an exit from the FCS playoffs here. So good year all around for everybody, and it's my favorite time of the year, right? Holidays, Christmas, football. What else could you ask for?
There's nothing quite like it, especially coming off of Thanksgiving. At Pennridge, we still have the Pennridge Quakertown rivalry going on for all these years. I think this was the 97th game. We're coming up on the 100th game. So that kind of thing too, and at the high school football level, it's just awesome.
Yeah, and it's the state playoffs here, and
state playoffs,
just the best, right? So we're right in the shadows of War Memorial Field here in Central Bucks West High School, and me and my boys got to go out to a few games this year.
Awesome.
Got to go on the field a little bit to check out the players, and they just love it.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
Absolutely love it. So when we talk about like football, I mean, right into it, like what has the sport meant to you? And man, we could probably go on about this for quite some time because you were a player, you were a coach, and now you're not directly involved, but being the mayor of the town, you see the culture, the environment, and everything that's going on with it.
Yeah, so just a really brief history. I'll keep this very brief. My dad coached at Pennridge, so I grew up with Pennridge football. I was the manager on the team. Somebody reminded me of that the other day when I was 7 years old. So I grew up with all this stuff and heard the stories and just felt the intensity, and the privilege, of what it means to be part of a community football team and all that. So that was way back in the day. I'm talking about 1950s, and there's a game in the 1950s when there's a Pennridge Quakertown game. Quakertown students at a certain point tear down the goalpost. This would have been 1954, something like that. So it's just to share a little bit of the history, the stories I've heard. The Quakertown people tear the goalpost down. Quakertown scored at one. It must have been the third quarter. They switch in. Pennridge scores then in the fourth quarter. At that end where there was no goalpost, they come to the head coach, a guy by the name of Ray Wispel, and said to him, and he's a former military sergeant, Marine sergeant. And so they said to Ray, Coach, we're just going to go down to the other end to kick the extra point. He said, no, you're not. He said, you're going to rebuild the goalposts. And so this is a true story. They actually rebuilt. They took 45 minutes out of the game, rebuilt the goalposts, and Pennridge, kicked the extra point. Those kind of crazy stories that I grew up with. And then, got you said, Ryan, got to play at Pennridge, got to play at Illinois, and got to coach. All those levels were just really phenomenal to me. So the sport of football, just has so much to it in terms of the intensity and the perseverance. And I think for me, number one on the list is team. It's team. Is that you are not, no matter how good you are not the superstar. As Ryan being a former running back, and what did you play for? I'm sorry.
Played center and defensive line.
Yeah. So let's go to the center part. Yeah. So you don't do anything without a good center.
Yeah.
And I know you know that. I was a quarterback, and I wasn't doing anything in the pocket if I didn't have linemen in front of me. My very first play in Illinois, we're playing USC. I'm a sophomore in mop-up duty. We're playing USC in the very first play. I'm faking to the tailback. We're in I formation. I'm faking to the tailback. I drop back, and nobody blocks the stunning linebacker who was it was all Pac-12 or Pac-10 at the time, I guess. He rushes, gets a 12-yard head start. I turn around, and there he is, and I'm like knocked out on my first play as a college quarterback. But you're not the back doesn't do anything without the linemen, and no matter what positions you're talking about, just the whole concept of the team and the fact that the skill it takes to play the line is completely different from a running back or a wide receiver or whatever. And I just love that we don't get it done unless we're together, unless we really have each other's backs. And we all know on the field, in life, things get really rough, really rough. And if you don't have somebody you can go to, somebody you can lean on, somebody that you know has your back, you're not really going to make it very far. And I'm afraid in this culture that the self-centeredness, the me first ideas that permeate our culture are just kind of breaking down that concept of team. And so I just think football, and not only football, there's other team sports. I think football's the best in terms of illustrating the different kind of skills you need to come together, to reach the goal, to do what you're doing. And if it doesn't work that time, you're saying we're going to get it done the next time. That kind of perseverance, those ideas are lifelong skills.
And I'm amazed at how young you can start to see that too.
Right.
I mentioned to you before we started here, I was a head coach of our 5-year-old flag football team, right? I also I coached basketball. My son played soccer. And for some reason, and it's everything that you talked about, is there is a sense of team and community with that flag football team that hasn't developed for one reason or another with basketball or with soccer or with other things that are there, because there isn't that collectiveness that you have to have on each and every play to execute the way that you want. Now, listen, I'm talking about 5-year-olds here, but it's interesting how young that starts.
They can pick it up. Yeah, that's right. And I've coached I've coached 49 different seasons. So I coach girls basketball and tennis and all kinds of different things, primarily football. So I've coached a lot of teams over a lot of years. And that idea of how a team meshes, how they come together. You guys have all played in a bunch of teams. And you think back to your team and you think, like, that team, we had it. And other teams, maybe not so much. And maybe there were some kids with some crazy personalities or some kids that thought they were better than they were and came across with, ego-filled attitudes, that kind of thing, whatever it was. It's interesting how a team meshes together.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's fascinating that I was thinking about as you were talking there was just how, the one thing that I always say I think football does extremely well, obviously not everyone, there's always exceptions to any rule, but, almost all the guys that I know that I played with are like some of the best people. Like they were all kind of raised with the same like morals, same disciplines. You have a very good understanding of each other because you've all been through the same stuff when it comes to football. And I feel like when it comes to, you're talking about raising people to have like a team mindset, not be self-centered. I think that stuff's equally important because, it teaches people to just be good humans and how like, hey, it's not all about you. Like sometimes it's about, and whether that's just, you take that into your business life, your family life, all that stuff's extremely important, to just be a good dad, be a good friend, a good, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Just a good human being, right? Like just stop looking at your phone and look at me. I mean, let's have a conversation. Let's look at this. Have eye-to-eye contact is what I'm saying. I'm just amazed. I heard a story recently, and it was probably a group of maybe, I'll say your age, Ryan, of a number of people going out to eat, and they sat down, or 8 or 10 of them, they sat down, and this one person said, all right, all the phones go in a basket in the center of the table. And, and the guy said, first one that picks up their phone pays the bill. And he said, we're just going to have a conversation without our phones, and be real with each other, talk to each other, look each other in the eye. Just that simple idea. It's so crazy in this culture that we have to think about that we really have, our eyes are down just way too much.
Yeah. Well, I even said this to a friend like last week. There's a few apps on my phone. I'm like, I just deleted them off my phone. Just I'm on it too much.
Yeah, right.
It's just a constant distraction.
Right.
And even you see this too, like all the time. Like sometimes I pick up my phone, like, what am I even picking my phone for?
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason. There's no reason to, right?
Yeah.
Think about simpler times, right? Back in the day.
We just did just one more thing around the football. I just did a reunion with my 1998 team. It's a really good team at Pennridge. It was the second year I was coaching, and we won the championship. And at that point, District 1 was only taking 4 teams into the playoffs, and we were the 2 seed. So I did a 25-year reunion with them. We had dinner at a restaurant Wednesday night, Thanksgiving Eve, and then the next day we were introduced on the field at Pennridge, and so there's 20, 25 guys that showed up and some of their spouses. And so I got a lot of comments from players, and stuff that they sometimes said that I said that I didn't remember saying sometimes, but a lot of it was positive. They said they just remembered things about perseverance or teamwork or whatever that, I really kind of built into them. And it was such an awesome thing to hear that from them. And they said they're trying to do the same thing with, their families and people they influence too. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think, for most guys who played, right, their head football coach is one of the most impactful people that will ever have in their life. Like, especially when me and my friends get together, kind of similar to what you're talking about, a lot of the time we're talking about our high school football coaches, like whether that's making jokes about things they used to say, the way they used to tear people up, like that is stuff that goes with people forever. And it's like, whether it's, obviously all the good things you taught them, some of the funny things you probably said over the years, like you bond that group of guys like forever. And like I was saying before, just have made a huge impact on so many people's lives. You say 49 years of coaching, that's gotta be, I don't know, the number is falling. Probably 3,000-4,000 people that you've made an impact on.
Well, that, and I also was a math teacher in the classroom too. And so the number I used, because I did sit down and figure it out, it was like 9,000.
Wow.
So 9,000 kids.
Yeah.
So what happened, especially as mayor, the tree lighting, there's 8,000 people that are coming up. Mr. Hollenbach, I had you in class. I'm like, okay.
You interact with them, pass those at some point in time.
Once in a while, I'll remember a name, but I'll usually remember a face, but it's hard to remember names when it's so many people. But so to that point, I just feel honored and privileged to have lived that life and been able to impact people, hopefully for positive, hopefully for community, hopefully that they can live their lives a little bit better.
Yeah, well, talking about the football side is you didn't just get into football, right? Like you had successful teams, like very successful teams, top of the district, top in the state. So like back up, why did you get into coaching? Right, to begin with and come back home. Because if I recall the story somewhat, right, like you moved back to the area, you were out west for a period of time, and then made the decision to come back and get involved with the team. Yeah,
well, I'm a math ed grad out of University of Illinois, and it did have a quick stint with the Steelers. And then when that was done, this was way back. This was 1975. But when that was done, then my wife and I had been married. In fact, we were married for a week, then our honeymoon for a week, and then I went to Steelers camp. So it wasn't the best way to start.
I'm sure she was pleased.
But that's exactly what we did. And here we are.
And camp then isn't like camp now. You're probably sitting in some college dorm room, cinder block, right?
Well, that's and they still do it. So St. Vincent's is where the Steelers still train. Latrobe, Pennsylvania. They're there every year. I talked with a Pittsburgh person the other day, and they said, Latrobe. Everybody knows that's where we go for Steelers camp. So, and it is it's the old dorms and all that stuff. In any case, I did a bunch of different jobs, did not get into teaching right away. And then we decided we wanted to do some service. So we wound up going out to New Mexico and working on the Navajo reservation. We were there in New Mexico for 4 years, on the reservation for about a year and a half, and I started teaching. I was running a basketball tournament for the we were in a compound way out in the middle of sagebrush, literally where you could not see another home, right? And that's just how the Navajos live. They're kind of all over the place. They're not a community group. Pueblo Native Americans built together. Navajos did not. They were kind of fiercely independent. So they just really stayed out by themselves. So our compound was really to serve them water and some food occasionally, had them do their laundry. And then I ran some basketball tournaments for them. So we had a really nice gym. And one of those basketball tournaments, the official is talking to me. We have some time. He said, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm a former football player out of Illinois and a math ed guy. He said, really? He said, you're a teacher, possible coach? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, I need you to come in and talk to the AD like next week if you're interested. So I did that. It was Farmington High School is the name of the school. So it's the Four Corners area of New Mexico. And coached for that school for 3 years. So I was football, basketball, baseball, or softball actually. Started coaching my career back then, and it was just a blast. I thought this is really something, because my dad was a coach, and football obviously was what I knew the most about. But I really enjoyed girls basketball. I enjoyed softball. Had a lot of fun with that. And then after a number of years out there, our oldest daughter Sarah was born. And we needed to decide, do we want our children to be kind of around family back here on the East Coast, or just stay out there and in New Mexico. And I loved it. I'm an outdoors person. We did a lot of, trout fishing, backpacking, all that stuff. And it's really a different culture out there. I actually loved it. I have a lot of the West is kind of in my heart, but we did move back, and that definitely was the right decision. So then I started coaching at Pennridge here in 1982 or 3 or something like that. And again, a lot of different opportunities. But yeah, that conversation with that official was very helpful.
Yeah. So when you came back, did you get into the team right away, right for your first stint with Pennridge?
The current coach, that was a guy by the name of Frank Christiniak, who was my head coach. Was the defensive coordinator when I was playing. And again, because my dad was coaching, I grew up with Frank. I knew Frank since I was 6 years old, right? So he said, hey, you want to come back and run the offense? So that's what I did. I started as an OC kind of early on, got to coach Lou Riddick. In the mid '80s, so Lou was playing for for Pennridge, and we had some good teams.
Yeah.
I have some CB West stories for that, but I don't have to get into that.
No, let's get into it, right? So we're right in the hollows of it. I'm a Doylestown resident currently, and a not so fond resident, I guess you could say, of the Bucks, but they are my son's favorite team.
I was saying, apparently there were some sightings of Rye at the CB West games this year.
Several sightings.
He had his hat down extra low so no one would see his face.
But no CB West stuff on or anything like that.
No. I had a black jacket, but it's a standard black jacket. Right, that's it. However, my son is asking for a Bucks hat.
Some last stuff.
We'll see how that goes. I've been able to hold out so far, but I think my days of that are limited. But it's so interesting because Fran got me into long distance running.
Yeah, cool.
So I run every day
Fran.
now, and me and Fran will do workouts on the track.
Great.
Right over here at CB West.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So there is not a day that goes by that I'm running on that track that I don't think about you, the team, and just the 2 times that I had a privilege of playing there and competing on that field,
right.
Especially my freshman year, them coming off of winning the state titles, that did in the competition. So, how did that? Well, it really wasn't a rivalry at all because they just whooped our tail for years.
They did.
And years and years and years. I don't even remember how many years they beat us consecutively before we won in 2001.
It was a lot, and the game. So I'll share a couple things and just give me the X sign or something.
No, let's roll.
So this was when Lou was playing, and Mike Pettin Sr. was the coach on the other side. This was in 1980, either 85 or 86. I'm not sure the exact year. So because it was prior to the state championships, you could have long consecutive winning streaks, right? Like now it's really hard to do that.
Yeah.
Short of a St. Joe Prep or something. But it was really hard to do that. I mean, it was a little easier to do that back in the day. So West was on I want to say 82 straight wins. They come up to Pennridge. We're playing.
And there was no state title then.
Yeah, no state titles.
So you just played your regular season.
And this is just me being a back in the day person. But my little comment on that is my hope would be it would possibly go back to that, and we would exclude state champions. Because what happens, I'll take Central Bucks South as an example. This year, CB South is a really good team that had a very nice year, gets to be district champs. And then they get humiliated in the next game. And that's what they're going to think about, right?
Yeah.
All of us, our last game, if we got humiliated in the last game, we'd think, it really wasn't a great season. And I'm arguing it was a great season for CB South. If there's no state championships or playoffs, they win the local title, and they're all happy. And they go to McDonald's or they go to Chick-fil-A or whatever, and they're proud. They come into Doylestown, they're proud. Now, are they proud? I don't know. I don't know if they are or not. But at the end of the year, the way it's set up now, you have one 6A team that's really happy because they won the state championship.
Yeah.
And then you have all these other really good 6A teams that are frustrated because their last game was a loss. So I think it's really hurt high school football in terms of the community effect and just the kids' pride and what they accomplish in the season. That's just my little thing. Anyway, CB West, 1980, I'll say 86, and It's a back and forth game. Lou scores on two long touchdowns. I ran a halfback pass with him. And he comes out, it's like a toss. We ran I formation, ran a toss to the right. The receiver's not open. He ran like 65 yards through everybody for a touchdown. Mike Pettin Sr. comes up to me after the game, and I played against Mike when I was playing, right? So I've known Mike for a long time. And Mike comes up to me in his low voice and says, "Jeff, that was the best performance I've ever seen by any high school football player." And I was talking about Lou's performance in that game. So what happened was we're winning the game. Mike decides to punt in a 4th down situation at the end instead of going for it. We have a sophomore return guy who had just taken over that position that week because the other guy got hurt in practice. And so this kid's back there, and basically all he has to do is if he catches the ball, we get a 1st down, we're going to win. We're going to break this 82 game consecutive winning streak for West. And he drops the ball. And so West recovers, ran a play or two, kicks a field goal, and they win. So they won 16-14. It was just it's just an unbelievably frustrating loss. We get on the bus after the game. The head coach was this Frank Christiniak, super intense personality. The bus is absolutely quiet. The bus starts. Frank says, he just screams, "Stop the bus." And so he yanks the door open. He goes sprint off the bus. I have no idea what's going on. The other assistant and myself who were on the bus, we follow Frank off the bus, come around the corner, and here there was a trumpet player who was playing taps to our bus. And Frank heard it. I didn't hear it. Frank heard it. And so Frank was pretty upset with that kid. And I just, those kind of memories, you don't forget those kind of memories. Your 9th grade year, Ryan, we're playing. So that was 90.
It was 2001.
2001.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So 99, we had come down here with a 10-1 team or something like that, and we got schmaltzed by them.
Was that the Armstrong days?
Yeah, the Armstrong days.
No,
and Dustin. I think Dustin was playing.
Pichotti.
Yeah, Dustin was playing.
Yeah. I remember listening to that game on the radio at my grandmother's house.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I just had this memory of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was 48-7 or something like that. It was just of all the games I ever coached, and this is for if any of the Pennridge players are listening, I never ever thought going on the field, walking on the field, just personally that we would lose. I always thought we're a good enough team. We can play with these guys. That game,
not that year.
I remember walking on the field. I didn't say anything to Barry or anybody else, just thinking to myself, we've got no chance to win this game. And they beat us 49-7 because they just pounded you. They were just physically superior.
They were one of the first teams in the area to instill like a full-blown strength program. Like they were just monsters.
Yeah, and this would have been Mike Carey and Mike Patton and some really excellent coaches. And
Carey talked about that with us. It's like that was their thing.
That was their thing.
We're gonna lift. We're gonna be stronger, more powerful.
Right. And they clearly dominated, and they dominated us that day. That was 99,
and they went on the state title that year.
Yeah, that's right. They did. And then 2000. Let's see, you weren't playing yet in 2000.
Nope, I was in 8th grade,
right, 8th grade, yeah. So 2000, we get him here. My son is quarterback, and he's a junior at the time. And we really have a pretty good game going with them. I remember a 3rd and 14 play. We ran a dig pattern. John Fox was the wide receiver, and Sam usually was pretty good at that throw, and John's coming open and Sam's ready to throw, and a DN came off his right side and he couldn't get the ball off, and that was a key play in the game. So we lost by 13, I think, in that game. And then the next year, 2001, we came down here, and Ryan was a 9th grader, and we had a really good team. James Franklin Sam had already committed to Maryland. So James Franklin was here as a Maryland wide receiver coach, standing on that sideline, and we're losing by
We were.
We're losing by 13.
They were third. Yeah, we're down 13-0.
13-0. In the like 5 minutes to go in the game, and we hadn't done much offensively, as I recall.
Nothing.
Nothing.
No.
Right. And they gave us a chance. They ran a play put a lineman at a fullback, and he fumbles on the half-yard line. The ball goes through the end zone, and we got the ball on the 20 then, and Sam makes a play to Jake. Right? Jake Laux. Goes like whatever, 50, 60 yards. We made some plays in there, and we had a 4th and 2, as I recall. I think so. 13-7, right in the middle of the field was 4th and 2, and I ran a power pass. I don't remember that or not, but I ran power pass, which probably wasn't the best call, but it was a crossing pattern with the tight end. So Sam was faking power right, steps back. He's getting some people in his face, and he hits John, on a nice play, and then we made some plays. So then he made another completion to John right in front of Coach Franklin. I filmed that. Coach Franklin jumping up and down on the side.
That's great.
And the video on this, the audio we have on it too, both sides are just screaming. Like it was really just a great football game.
Was there as many people at that game as I recall as like a 14-year-old? Right? Like I just remember.
Yeah.
And I was at the game recently.
7,000 or 8,000 people. It was definitely standing room only.
And like around the track.
Yeah, and both sides are screaming.
Yeah.
Like the West people realized we can't lose to Pennridge. And this is getting really close. And the Pennridge people are like, we might beat West.
Chance.
So we get down. I want to say to the 12-yard line. 30 seconds to go. We're losing 13-7. And, most people know, everybody knows my son's the quarterback, D1 kid and all that. So what are we going to do? We're going to let Sam run play action pass or whatever. I decide to run our double handoff play to our 9th grade halfback, right?
Which as a current head coach with 1 year of experience with 5-year-olds, is a terrible call. Right?
It's a terrible call.
Terrible call.
It's a terrible call.
Should not be the top of the play sheet.
So we ran what we call crisscross to Ryan, and it's just an unbelievable play. He makes a guy. West knew we ran a play, right? And so they possibly were ready for it. I'm not sure, but Ryan made a guy miss. And then he's heading to the end zone, and Sam's there. So Sam, he makes his initial handoff, and then the quarterback is kind of leading, in a sense, the running back. And so Sam's claim to fame is he made the block that got you in the end zone.
I mean, I don't disagree with him necessarily. I don't know if he made the block that got me there. Right. Maybe that helped me get there. But I'll digress. I'll give her that one.
In any case, we made it 13-13, and it is chaos. People are screaming on the Pennridge side, just screaming. Kick the extra point, won 14-13, and there's at least one principal up at Pennridge, and I think there'll be others that say maybe the best game in Pennridge history. It was just because of the whole Pennridge West thing and West's dominance for so many years. And we play that game 10 times. We might win once.
Yeah, and just the series of events that. The way the whole game was going, we really shouldn't have been in it at the end. And John Fox stripped the ball. I don't know if you remember this, but
right.
West, we were fighting back, and then West broke a long run, and I forget who the running back was.
It was Fasani. Oh man, that's not quite the name.
But he's running down the right hand sideline, and John runs him down.
I think it was Fignani.
Something like that. And then John Fox strips it. Right, a strip ball. Like it would have been an 80-yard touchdown run, but he ran him down, stripped it, recovered it, and then that got us to our last drive. But he scores, game over.
So it was one of those things where one of my other children, we didn't have grandchildren at the time, grabbed some grass from that field. And we still have grass in a bottle.
That's awesome.
It's that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
it's like we won the Super Bowl.
That's right.
It really is.
That kind of crazy stuff. So, memories like that against West and, North Penn stories and all that stuff. So,
and I just remember, again, I take my boys to a few West games this year. They're a really great team. And just looking around at them, like, it's such a cool environment, but it seems so much larger at the time. Now, I'm not sure if that's because I was a 14-year-old or just because of the culture and the environment or just how big high school football was.
Yeah,
so what's your take on that?
Well, just other activities that come up and people aren't as into high school football as they used to be. So I'm doing this YouTube channel for, so anybody listening, Coach H, if you go on Coach H, Pennridge football, if you do whatever year, it'll show up. And so I'm going back through all those games and most of the time watching the games. And a lot of times it's also the audio. Some of those VHS tapes have lost the audio for some reason. But when the audio's on, just Friday night at Poppy Yoder Field, and just the excitement when you were playing, and even I would say 98, 99, 2000, those years, like it is, people are wound up. And then the field, the stands are excited. That North Penn game when you were playing, Ryan, both games when you were playing your senior year, oh my goodness, it was packed. And people are cheering, like really cheering, really into it. I hope that still happens, for some of the teams around here. But I think for the most part, the number of people that are coming, that seems to be decreasing. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you coached beyond the years that I played there. So you were there from, what years were you there?
So I was there through your senior year, and then it looked like Sam was going to play at Maryland, so I left to follow him and his ACC career, and then I came back in 2013, and coached through 2017.
Now, what was that difference from the time you stepped away to go see Sam play football to like coming back and then your second stint with the kids, the culture, the excitement and the atmosphere, and like, were those lessons that you were bringing forward to that team, were they different than what you did in your first stint and go around?
Yeah, well, fortunately for us, the very first game that when I came back, so I'd been around away 8 years, and the previous coach had been at Pennridge, and now he was at Emmaus. Emmaus has Kaiser White playing for them, and they had another D1 kid. They had two outstanding players. So my first game back, and the other coach left kind of late in the season. I was with the kids maybe 2 months, right? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden we're playing Emmaus. Emmaus is a really good team. And that game, I'm talking about all these really great wins. We clearly lost, but some games, but that game turned into another super exciting game where Emmaus has beaten us by whatever it was. I think they were up at least 2 touchdowns at one point. Our quarterback, who played an awesome game, did not play great the first half. There was 3 picks. He threw 2 pick sixes to Kaiser White in the first half, and it was his first start. And I'm just wondering, how is this kid it's the first time I'm coaching him in a game, right? How's he going to respond? And Matt, oh my goodness. So Matty Pasquale, he just came through that second half, and he just took the team. Just to back up 1 second, I remember him kneeling on the sideline towards the end of the first half. It's his first varsity start. He's been waiting his whole life for this. He's thrown 3 picks, and we're down 21-0 at halftime. And he's kneeling right behind me, and I'm just looking at him thinking, what is going through his mind, and how is he going to respond to this unbelievable adversity? And like his hopes of being the guy and all that, like they were not happening at that moment. And the second half, he just came out and he played football. And so we fought back. We're down 8 with a minute and a half to go. And Matty makes some great plays. He made like 6 consecutive, ball on the money kind of throws. One to Micah Stutzman, I don't remember that name or not, but Mike was a really good wide receiver for us. With 30 seconds to go, we're on the 12-yard line. We were in a waggle play, and Micah ran an out pattern, and Matty's getting some pressure, rolling left, getting some pressure, puts the ball right in the money. Micah dives and catches it, so we're down 2. I came out, call timeout for the 2-point conversion, and they're all, Coach, we got to run that play again. Well, I have always been on the offensive coordinator side of it, I've always been, you run a great play, you don't come back to that play the next play, right? You come back to it maybe in 2 or 3 plays, but not the next play, because people expect you're going to do that. So they're like, Coach, run the same play. And I'm like, I don't know. And I remember Matt, the same kid, looked at me in the eye and said, Coach, we got this. Run the same play. I said, okay, Matt, we're doing it. So we ran the same play. He basically made about the same play and hits Micah. We tied it up. We go into overtime. Mass had the ball first. They didn't get anything, kicked the field goal, missed the field goal. So all we have to do is score. And so we're on the 10-yard line, first and 10 in overtime. And I'm thinking back to the 2001 CB West game where we ran crisscross. So I had a really good running back named Mike Class. And so I ran the same play. I ran for Ryan to Mike Class. So we scored in the first play. And the fans, the stands empty, right? Like people are so wound up. And this was the first game back. So we were really fortunate. So that, to answer your question, that really helped the motivation and the kind of the buy-in for me, because those kids didn't know me very well, just kind of the buy-in for me. And we really had a great year. And a number of good years after that.
Yeah, I mean, you made it to district finals,
we did.
right?
With
a few great teams and had amazing kids that have gone on to have incredible careers and really be good people. Like, what are those, when you take a look at the totality of all the kids that you've coached and had an impact on, right? Like we were talking beforehand, like just the sayings or the themes and the messages and the assistant coaches too, right? I mean, I think about Ed Gallagher, Barry Benfield, our strength coach, Coach Pass, like the impact that those guys had. And also like, you didn't want to let them down.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, when I think about just trying to play, like I didn't want Barry screaming in my face. He can't grab face mask anymore, right? But I didn't want him grabbing my face mask and being like, "What are you doing? Get it together, and get out there and play, right?" Or you know, like Ed was so attention to detail oriented, and if you made one false misstep coming out of like your running back stance, like he was on you.
Yes, he was.
You know, so like those lessons for me at least taught me responsibility, attention to detail, accountability, and you know, just motivation to try to not be afraid of the other team.
That's right.
And to go out and be good with getting hit in the face and getting back up and fighting. So like, what are some of those are some of the things that just stuck with me, but like what did you try to teach us that you didn't necessarily come right out and say, but like when you look back on your teams, like you would hope that the reputation that your kids had on the field were something that you left behind. Yeah.
So I heard this from a coach one time, a successful head coach down in the city. And he said, there's a situation where a reporter came up to me before the season and said, are you going to have a successful year this year, coach? And he said, I have no idea. He said, I won't know that answer for 10 or 12 years. He said, when these guys are involved in their community, when they're good fathers, when they've made good choices, gone to good schools or in some kind of occupation, and they're doing well, like they're treating people well. They're treating others the way they want to be treated. Like they've learned respect and they've learned that they need to be community people. That's a successful coach, you know? And so in my mind, in my heart, that's what I was thinking about the whole time. And I really continue to think about that. So that 25-year reunion I referenced, it was just really awesome to have some of those guys kind of model that for me, that I could see, things are going well. And we know in life, it doesn't always go right? It's like there's a lot of things that get in the way, whether it's divorces or cancer or whatever it is. There's so many things that can really be an issue in this world. And so for people to have hopefully the basics of what's happened in their experience in high school football, to bring that forth, that they can apply it to what they're doing. That's what I thought about. I would say specifically to the kids sometimes, I would just say, look, you're high school boys with a lot of testosterone going on. I said, you need to make good choices, right? Everybody's watching you guys in school, teachers, kids, whatever. They're all watching you. Make good choices. Respect everyone. Learn to respect everyone. And then the third thing I would say, I know I'd verbalize this to them, probably my later years. I'm not sure about when you were playing, Ryan, but I would say find something to do beyond yourself. That's just not all about you. Open a door for someone today. Look somebody in the eye and say, thank you for doing that, or find some kind of purpose, some kind of mission that is beyond you and really helps other people. So if you can do that, you're gonna go well. Things will go well for you. So those kind of, I would verbalize that at least to my later year teams. Yep.
Yeah, and that absolutely sticks with me. When I don't keep up with as many guys as I probably would like to, like from the team, but like when we do talk or we do get together, I remember some of the fun wins for sure. I remember more of the losses.
Yeah, that's right. You do.
More so than anything else. And
like
greater detail.
Your final game.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you. I try to forget about that one to the Panthers of Quakertown. I swear, the only time I've lost to them in anything, I am not making this up.
Was that game?
Growing up, junior high, high school, doesn't matter if it was baseball, basketball, football, the only time we lost to Quakertown
I didn't know
was that
that,
game.
Ryan.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
the only single time.
That one hurts.
I apologize.
Yeah.
sorry.
No, actually, if I recall right correctly, back in the day there were pep rallies, right? When
Right.
you were playing. So there's
Yes.
an interesting pep rally story, if I recall, that you made when we talk about kind of the football side and rivalries. Maybe we'll talk about the Panthers for a
Frank's
minute.
probably tired of all this
we'll
Pennridge
keep on
stuff.
going. Then
I
we'll-
love these stories,
Yeah,
dude.
okay. Well, this is beyond the stories I tell. This is probably the craziest story. It's my own really personal journey, but so Pennridge, Quakertown back in the day. Quakertown had some really good players. They had a guy that wound up playing for the Jets named Kenny Shroy, defensive back. So we're playing them in 1970, way back then. They had a good team. We had a good team. We're playing for the Bucksmont Championship. And so we had these pep rallies that someone in some crazy state of mind decided that it would be a good idea to have the co-captains from Pennridge go to the Quakertown pep rally the day before the game and talk to them in a pep rally. And the Quakertown kids came down to Pennridge. So you have to walk into, and it was the whole school.
It's like a WWE press conference.
Exactly. That's exactly right. It was crazy.
Hostile
Who
environment.
thought of this idea? So so my two buddies, the other two co-captains or tri-captains and myself went up there with our head coach, and we walk in the gym, and there's a whole bunch of people. Their whole school was there, and the other two my buddies went first. And of course they're booing us and all that stuff, but they were quiet enough that we could talk. So without much thinking, and because I don't know if I really have a good reason why I said this. It's hard to explain a reason, I guess. I got up there and I said, if Pennridge loses tomorrow, everybody here is invited to my house for Thanksgiving Day dinner. So it was the day before Thanksgiving. So those words came out of my mouth. They're all like, they're cheering. They're like, all right, we love that idea, blah, blah, blah. I came back. The Pennridge pep rally was still going on. So we came back to the Pennridge pep rally. I told our school what I said, and they loved it too.
Yeah.
However, we went out on the field the next day, and it was up in Quakertown again, standing room only. It was I do have pictures of that game, 7,000 or 8,000 people. We were going to receive huge game, big playoff game, and for the championship game, and they'd go onside kick on the opening kickoff. Hits one of our players in the chest, bounces off. They recover. They ran like 3 plays and scored. The second kickoff, they go onside kick again.
No way they would do that,
To
right?
the same person. Almost identical situation. They recovered, ran 5 or 6 plays, scored 14-0. The third kickoff, they kicked deep. I only played quarterback, wasn't on defense, so I haven't been on the field yet. We go 3 and out, punt. They score. It's 21-0. The fourth kickoff, they go onside kick again and scored. It's 28-0, and we've run 3 plays.
Better get an extra turkey in that oven.
Yeah, like this is just phenomenal. And the crazy part was our defense had played Souderton, a really good Souderton team, the game before, and had a school record like -2 yards for the game. That same defense, right? And our offense was pretty good. So anyway, we lost, needless to say, and the final score was 66-28. All right. I hadn't really thought, there was so much going on. I didn't really thought too much about this invitation. I remember going back to school, and I played football, basketball, baseball, and played a lot of sports and all that. I don't remember crying after any loss, but this loss, I was crying because it was my last game as a Pennridge player, and somewhat similar to what some other people have experienced. last game against Pennridge Quakertown. You don't want to lose that game, and it was a championship game. So I do remember praying when I got back to school. I said, Lord, if there's anything you can do with this crazy situation, see if you can do something with this. I do remember that. We go home. My Freundschaft is there, the Hollenbach cousins and uncles and aunts and all that. And my brother played on the team too. So he was a tight end, and I threw 1 or 2 touchdown passes to him. So they were saying, you guys played well. I'm like, what are you talking about? This was horrible. We're sitting at dinner, getting towards dessert, and I hear these car horns, right? And back in the day, this is way before your guys' time, but back in the day when there was a wedding, after the wedding, people would just drive through town beeping their horns. That's what they would do. And so my initial thought, literally in my mind, my initial thought was, who would have a wedding on Thanksgiving? Like, what's going on in Perkasie? And then I thought, because the horns were getting closer. And I thought, maybe this is those Quakertown kids. So I said to Mom, Mom, I made an invitation yesterday. And I said,
And at this point, she didn't
I
know.
invited the whole school. I don't think she knew. I said, I invited the whole school if we lost. And she said, what are you talking about? And so it was chaos at that moment. So I remember going out to meet these kids. It was like 8 carloads of kids that came. None of the players. I knew the players pretty well. They didn't show up. It was just, students that had come to give me a hard time. And they did. And they could have been more obnoxious, I guess, but they were giving me a hard time. We had like some Reese's peanut butter cups and some pretzels and soda. And, we took that out to them. And then my dad had and again, this is for the older crew, if anybody's listening, a Plymouth Barracuda that had this beautiful curved back window on it. So they made me put in blue and white crepe paper. My brother and I, we put 66 to 28. Stood by the car. They took a picture. It's in the 1971 Quakertown yearbook. People remind me of that because I have some friends in Quakertown. They remind me of that. 2 weeks later, I'm in a last period class, social studies class, I think, and the phone rings and the teacher said, said to me, you need to go to the office. So I went up to the office, and there's a gentleman in a coat and tie there. He comes up to me, he says, are you Jeff Hollenbach? I said, yes. He said, I'm John Nelson. I'm from Dartmouth University. And he said, I want to talk to you about playing football. And so this was, way like the internet was not, the internet, cell phones, that's way predates that by a long shot. So I said, after we talked for a while, I said, Coach, I said, how did you even know about me or whatever? And he said, I was just up in Quakertown. And he said, I'm recruiting Kenny Shroy and Jeff Barnt, who I knew very well. He said, I understand, they're great players. And he said, I was looking at that film, your Quakertown game. And he said, I was really impressed by what you did. I said, seriously? And he said, yes. And he said, I'm going to kind of recruit you off that game. Now, part of it was we were losing by so much that we were throwing the ball. So I threw for over 300 yards, but it was, it was because we had to throw. It was all desperation. So that group, the spring of 1971, then they wound up getting the Coach Nelson, and the head coach was a guy by the name of Bob Blackman, got the head job at University of Illinois. And so they got back to me then once they got out to Illinois and said, hey, you want to play Big Ten football? I had my Army Navy. I was getting recruited by Army and Navy. I had both of those lined up. I was thinking about Army Navy. And Dartmouth clearly was still in the picture, and then maybe a couple other schools. But I thought, I'm just going to go for it, see what Big Ten football is like. And it was really pretty phenomenal once I got out there. I played with people. I played with a number of people, NFL players, and I remember we played a lot of basketball, right? I remember Reeve Sorey was a tight end out of Manhattan. And so these coaches were all Dartmouth coaches. They recruited the Northeast pretty well. So a lot of the team were Eastern players. There weren't that many Midwestern players. And so we played basketball. Reeve was 6'3", probably 280. He would stand underneath the basket and just go up and two-hand dunk without any trouble at all. Like their explosion. And we all played against really good athletes here, and I played against very good athletes here in Pennridge and these other communities. But I never saw athletes like this. Like they were just phenomenal. Lonnie Perrin was a 6'4", 240-pound running back, ran unbelievable speed. He played for the Broncos for 10 years. So just people like that. I was really, really privileged to play at that level. And we had some really nice years out there too. So it was just really awesome. I got to play against Bo Schembechler at the University of Michigan in at Michigan, Ann Arbor, my junior year, and then my senior year, we played against Woody Hayes in Ohio State. And I have all kinds of Illinois stories too. But yeah.
And how are those experiences? Like going from the small town where we're at, where high school football means so much.
Yeah.
But you feel like 7,000-8,000 people is like it's packed to the big house.
Yeah, that's right.
Now it wasn't 100,000 then, but you're looking at the most iconic.
It was 100,000 then.
Was
in
it
Ann Arbor,
then?
It was.
Yeah.
It was. It was 100,000. Illinois was typically 60 to 70,000. And I remember sitting in the stands as a freshman. This was before freshmen were eligible. So I was sitting in the stands during games. And I remember thinking, man, what's this going to be like if I get a chance to get out there? Like that's pretty crazy. Yeah. Pretty crazy. And I was probably nervous the first couple times, but then after it, you're an athlete, you just get out there and you're playing football. And the one thing I do remember about Michigan was because we were in the game with Michigan, we just lost by a touchdown. And we were down at their end where the band was and a student section. And I'm trying to communicate. Oh my goodness, I remember it was just almost impossible to communicate, even with like your tackles.
Yeah.
They could hardly even hear you, let alone the wideouts. It was super loud. But there was nothing like those experiences, and still have some great friends from all that. And so sometimes the lesson I get out of this for me is sometimes those really hard to deal with situations, they can turn into success. Now, they don't always. I'm not saying it's a magical formula here or anything like that. Right? Yeah. But for my case, that worst athletic experience I had, I would say the Lord really used that to give me an opportunity to be at a great school and make some great friends, get a wonderful education, and play some football. So, yeah, it was cool.
Something I talked to a lot of my guys about all the time is the time I had at Liberty was really special with them.
Yeah.
But when I think about, and I played in the Arena Football League for a minute, but no one cared at all at that point.
Yeah.
But I felt like as I went from, the community to high school to big time college program to professional for a little bit, it felt like it lost its luster a little bit. So what was your experience, with that from what it meant to represent your community versus play in front of a lot of people at a high level with amazing athletes.
Right.
It just that pregame feeling that I got at Pennridge, representing the community and my buddies and the guys I grew up with was just different than going out with some of my best friends in the world today. But it just wasn't the same. Like, what has your experience been, or talking to guys about?
And I had the privilege of throwing a couple end of game touchdown passes on television and stuff like that, and that was all cool, but I would not change, and I would give that up to be able to be back on the high school football field. There's no doubt about it. High school football was the best experience I had, even though I got to play in college and then a little bit in the NFL. But yeah, there was just nothing like the community sense, the coaches that you've known for a while, clearly the players, in most cases, you've grown up with most of your life that you've known, and then you're there together, trying to do something for the community. There's nothing like that. The sense, you got to play all those years at Poppy Otter Field. Pennridge switched fields in 2014, and now we're out at the high school. But that field holds so many memories for me personally, for coaching people like you, Ryan, and lots of others. That playing part of being able to play high school football, nothing like it. And guys that I've talked with that have played in the NFL, I think most of them really say the same thing, that high school football, nothing like it.
Yeah, I was gonna say almost like every pro, when you see them get interviewed and they get asked questions similar to this, even like big time quarterbacks, like Brady's, people like that. They ask, everyone says the same thing. There's nothing like high school football for those reasons you mentioned. It's like they're the guys you grew up your entire life with. Yes, you make great friends in college, and I'm sure in the pros you get real close with the guys. But I'm sure most would give that up to go, to play
yeah.
one more with their
Easy.
childhood best friends.
Yeah. And and then from the coaching standpoint, you can say that to the kids.
Yeah.
I know Barry would say a lot of times, this is the best opportunity you ever have, no matter how far you go in football. This is it right here. And the kids are like, nah, I want to play.
Yeah,
for
this is the best you're ever gonna have. It.
Yeah.
Period. Like, yep, I got no mortgage. I got no what I gotta do. I gotta show up to class and sit there and not get in trouble and go play.
Right,
like that's it's like an old timer, but but it was so true. And you obviously you don't appreciate it until you're gone,
right?
As much as you should have.
That's right.
But man, what an incredible opportunity it was. And I used to get so worked up, and it was like everything, right?
Yeah.
Like it was like I worked out, I did this. I would get so worked up, I would throw up before every game during the national anthem.
Yeah.
Just out of excitement, and I probably had too much barbecue chicken at your house before the game as a pregame meal, and it was something to work on it. But I remember when I got to Liberty and I was playing, I'm like, why don't I just didn't feel that way.
Right.
Like, what? Like, is there something wrong with me? Like, it just wasn't. I was still excited. I was fired up to play. I was ready to compete, but it was just that it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
It wasn't the same.
Absolutely
didn't mean
not.
as much,
And I've never heard anybody contradict that, actually.
Yeah.
And there might be some people out there that would, but yeah, almost everybody just loves that high school football thing.
What about the flip side of it? So, like, obviously as a player, but what has coaching taught you? Or just in the very little experience I've had with coaching my son, it's been so much fun.
Yeah, right.
And just seeing some of these little kids like build confidence in themselves or have something to look forward to, or say, I love playing, I can't wait to come back next year.
Right.
With your 49 years worth of experience, like what has coaching taught you? What have the kids taught you?
Yeah. I think people ask me, do I miss it? Because I'm retired now out of teaching and coaching, and do I miss it? And typically, well, I think almost all the time, that's my first response. I miss just the interaction with the players, just being able to get to know those kids. And there's a lot of personalities with with the players you played with. And I can think of each team and just think of kind of the crazy personalities. But just to be with those kids in the non-football, say on the practice field, or maybe even in the classroom. Really not much to do with football, but just to get to know who they are as people and watch them interact. And I miss that. I miss that situation. There was let's see, did you play with Danny Murray? I forget. You don't know Danny?
Yeah, I do. I did. My freshman year.
Yeah,
Danny was a senior.
So Danny, I'll share a quick story about this one player who just really impressed. So this was a lifelong impact on me, the player impacting a coach kind of thing. We're playing again. It's back to Thanksgiving in Quakertown. It was a snowy day. I actually forget the year. And so we're getting ready for the game. There's a lot getting ready for this big rivalry and all that. We're going through pregame meetings, and Danny is like falling asleep in meetings. And I've coached Danny for 3 years now, so I'm not gonna call him out his last game. I'm not calling him out in that situation, but I'm making a note. So afterwards, I went to him and said, "Danny, you okay? Like we're playing Quakertown today, right?" And he said, "Coach," he said, "I've had a rough night." I said, "What?" And he said, you know, my dad has kidney problems, and he has to do what's the
dialysis?
Medical? Thank you, dialysis. He needs to do dialysis. I said, "No, I'm sorry, Danny, I didn't know that." And he said, "Well, listen," he said, "we live in a farmhouse. We're about half a mile off the road." And he said, with all the snow, and it snowed a lot, he said he couldn't get out. And he needed to get out by like 6 o'clock this morning for somebody to pick him up to take him to dialysis. And he said, our equipment was not working. And he said, I shoveled the lane. He said from 2 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the morning, and nobody was helping him. He didn't have any siblings or anything. And he was out there shoveling his lane so his dad could go to dialysis. And that moment, it just really hit me. I thought, as important as this game is, because it really is important for the community and all that, it still comes down to people, and it still comes down to, here's Denny caring so much for his dad that he got up and made the incredible sacrifice of helping his dad out. And I thought, that's such a life lesson. And so that kind of stuff, and that was a pretty dramatic story. But I would say I've learned a lot, from different, just different athletes and the way they respond to things. And I can go down the list of people that have been pretty successful of guys that I've coached. Not that I had, much to do with that. I think a lot of it is just their choices they make. But you really, as a coach and a teacher, you're really impacted by watching what your students or athletes do. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's even the small sample size I got. It is so much fun.
It is so much fun
to see, just from a perspective of them being more confident, right?
Yeah.
Like there's one little kid on our team who the first day of practice, he was scared to even come on the field.
Yeah, right.
He was crying.
Right.
And then like by the end of the year, he's sprinting on the field.
Yeah.
He's confident, like he's ready to roll.
Yeah.
And it's like some of that little stuff, just me seeing it. And I experienced that, right? I felt it, but you kind of lose that a little bit. Like as you get older, as you have more experiences, you forget like I was terrified the first day when I was a 9th grader stepping onto the varsity practice field.
Right.
But I'm like, I'm just going to try to find a guy and smack him in the face and like see how it goes. I'm going to find out real quick if I'm here or not. But seeing the confidence that it has, and then it's just been an impact on me to make sure that I keep on trying to grow and develop as a person, too, as a coach, as an individual, and maybe as an athlete, try to stay somewhat athletic still, right? And the thing here or there.
And the crazy part about that is, you're seeing that in 5-year-olds.
I know.
Like the one story I always tell is like Ryan Bates was a guy I played with. He's been playing in the NFL now for like 6 years. Played at Penn State, offensive lineman. When we were playing CYO football growing up for the Bucksmont Saints, he would quit every single year, and his dad would keep having to bring him back. Like he would have quit 4 years in a row. Like every year would quit. And then like eventually he got to Wood, and like something clicked in his brain that like, hey, you could do this. And now here he is in the NFL. But like, for some people it's like, hey, you see them making those changes at 5 years old. Some people it's 12, 18, 20, but like, it's a fascinating like sport that helps, you as a coach, that must be so rewarding. To look like for his childhood coaches to be like, yep, we knew he would figure it out eventually. But it's awesome. That's why football's the best.
Yeah, it is. It clearly is. And that personality thing of just getting to know the players and the players getting to know the coach from a coaching perspective, there's really no substitute for that. I'm just feel privileged that I had the opportunity to do that, for a lot of years and loved it.
Yeah. Well, and as a former player, I thank you for the impact you've had on my life and the guys that we played with. We know that without guys like you and the Benfields, the Gallagher, we wouldn't be, the guys that we are without that guidance and direction and having a figure like you guys around. So
thanks,
I appreciate
Ryan.
that.
It really has been an honor to do that.
Yeah. Yep. So let's transition to the money side of things.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Sure.
So, because this is a podcast about money too, and people's story for that. So, last time I checked, teachers aren't getting $1 million contracts, right, for teaching and coaching.
Right.
So, and a lot of our clients have people that worked in the school district. So, the financial successful side of things is a critical factor of just paying for everyday lifestyles now, and maintaining lifestyles. So when you think about the success you've had on the field, when you look at off the field, like what's maybe, the best money move you've made as a teacher, as a coach. And I also don't think the town of Perkasie is paying you tremendously well either. It's more so a servitude thing. So I don't know much about that, but, kind of talk to me. Like, what are some of your best money moves you've made in the profession that you chose?
Yeah. So my wife and I agreed, early on, and it was maybe more a little bit of her growing up than my growing up, but I really got to appreciate her perspective on debt. And so she's really one who was just like, we've got to get out of debt. We can do whatever, pay down the mortgage, do whatever we can to pay down the mortgage, pay down the car payments as quickly as possible, which meant not doing some things that maybe you wanted to do. And I would say not that we were perfect at it or anything like that, but that concept of handling money well and not, going out to eat all the time or taking this vacation here or there, especially early on in a marriage was really important. On the teaching side of it, building up the IRAs as much as possible, trying to max that out. I don't know that I can't say we ever maxed it out. But I know a lot of teachers that did, and then that clearly does help. So on the other side of it, having access to the IRA money or know that that's still there and still building, or for a public school teacher, the pension part of it is really good. So the way PCERS works for the public school teachers, they're taking the last 3 years of your contract, of your salary, and basically getting, their average of what you're going to get paid the rest of your life off those 3 years. So whatever you can do in those last 3 years, it's coaching the cheerleaders or whatever it is, but just doing something you can do. And that's not negative on the cheerleaders. Forgive me for that. My dad did that. That's why I'm thinking about it. My dad was coaching cheerleaders at the end of his career. Any of those things really helped. I was fortunate enough to build up my Piecers account, my years of service with Piecers, by a couple things. I could translate. I transferred some of that, some of the years I built up in New Mexico. I taught 3 years out there. I got to transfer that, and then this is just a really unusual thing. It possibly doesn't apply to anyone, maybe a few people. But I worked for the school district in the summers of my college years, and I would mow lawns and that kind of thing. And that actually did build up some credit in the Piecers, the way Piecers looks at things, and got some time for that, which was really interesting. So
That's
I came out with like 35 years. I taught 32, I think, and I think maybe it was 34 and a half or something like that. I forget exactly. But the pension numbers, for Piecers, for public school teachers, are really good. And so we're really fortunate. And the other thing I did beyond teaching, I know all of us at my age are going to decide whatever we're going to do with Social Security. You guys will get there someday.
If it's around.
And hopefully it's around for you guys. But the Social Security questions for me were, do I take it right away and get that money or wait? I decided to wait, until I was 70. I just turned 70 in January. And so I waited. And so my combination of the Social Security and the Piecers has been really good for me. So that non-market related income that I have I'm just really blessed to have that.
It's great. And what type of security does that give you, right? Because now for people that we're mostly doing financial planning, investment management, people that are in their 30s and 40s, like I can count on my hands how many people of the 150 families we work with have a pension. It isn't around anymore.
Sure, I get it.
So like what type of security does that give you and your family? That you got Social Security coming in as a stable source of income. You got a pension coming in from the state as a stable source of income, and it doesn't give you, I would assume, too much of a gap that you have to worry about.
No, we don't. I mean, I'm very, very fortunate to be able to say that. But we don't worry, and we want to clearly manage our money well. We're not out there, a lavish lifestyle or anything like that. But for security, I can say I just never really worry about it and worry about money, even if the market's kind of out of control. And we're clearly invested in the market also. So we have some other funds that we've built up over the years. What I did specifically, so when the teacher leaves, retires, and has to make their choices on what they're doing with Piecers, they can take a lump sum out, and a large lump sum if they want to do that, and then do the investment on their own, or keep it with the government and let them kind of manage it. I drew out, I don't know, maybe it was a couple $100,000, something like that I took out and just kept that. So invested that, and then you just don't have to. You can just let it grow. And we have some other investments too. So so that worked out really well.
That's great. Well, maybe let's jump to the opposite side of the fence. Then. This is you got all this stability, all this nice stuff going on.
Sure.
What about maybe your worst money move that you've made at some point in time in your career? And maybe there's a few of that's fine too.
Yeah, I would say this was just. What would you put it in the category of just trying to be flamboyant, or hearing an idea and thinking, yes, I can put X amount of dollars in there and really make some money. And this is going to sound like the Quakertown situation of inviting people to dinner. It was popcorn machines. Okay. And it was a popcorn machine thing.
Sounds foolproof.
Lots of years ago. Right. Foolproof. And so I chose to invest close to $20,000 in, I don't know, mid 80s.
Which was a lot of money then.
We were 10 years married, I would say, something like that. My wife was totally against it. And she obviously was correct. And But I put the money in, and it turned out to be a scam, basically. And a number of other people got scammed also. And so it's just embarrassing, when that kind of thing happens.
Yeah.
It was totally embarrassed, but basically lost that money. There were some federal lawsuits in it. We maybe got 1,000 or 2,000 back out of the 20, but that was horrible. So I would say the get rich quick schemes that are appealing to all of us, maybe at certain levels. For me, that was just a horrible decision that I still regret, to this day. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it sounds too good to be true, it always is.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
It's something that everyone is looking for on some level. We have these conversations on a regular basis with people like, hey, my buddy or this or that, or I found this opportunity that's it's going to make us rich. It's going to do that. And how often do we see these like private equity investments that the presentation looks great, they're fully vetted, but they rarely work out.
And clearly once in a while they do.
100%. Right.
And you hear those stories and you think, oh, I can do that. But I presume you guys really teach and preach the long range investment, let's be wise, let's be smart, let's not go overboard in some get rich quick scheme.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me more about this popcorn machine though. What was it supposed to do?
It was a situation where you got you were going to get like 20 machines. The idea was you put them in motel lobbies and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it was kind of the advent of the microwave. So the microwave had just kind of started then. I know it's hard for you guys to believe, but the microwave had just started. So it was a matter of you pay X amount of dollars, you get the bag, you put it in the microwave, which is a new idea for most of the culture. And I thought like,
stovetop, right?
This could really work. You don't have to do the stovetop thing and you can get it, nice, fresh popcorn in a motel situation. That was the idea that kind of sold me, and that was stupid. It was just stupid.
It is funny because it sounds so silly now, but in the moment when whenever there's probably some new technologies that come out every day now that we're like, oh, that could be cool. And in 20 years, we're going to be like, that was an awful idea.
Awful idea. Most of them are. So when you ask that question, right? So that's the first thing that pops in my mind.
So as you look back here, like what is the advice if you would give a young teacher, a young new married couple, or like a new coach, right? If just general words of wisdom that you would go back and tell your younger self around.
My younger self would be try to see the long term, try to see the bigger picture, as hard as that is, and investing in something that's crazy like we're just talking about, or whatever, just spend a lot of money at restaurants or movies or different things. And clearly we all need some entertainment. So I'm not saying you can't do any entertainment, but trips to Africa or whatever, just at the extreme, just crazy vacations that people go on and will spend $12,000 for the week, that kind of stuff. Early on, I think you just really need to discipline yourself to try to stay away from that. And the fruit of those disciplined decisions will pay off.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Coach, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
really appreciate the time here. And then if people do want to check out like the YouTube channel or move to the great city of Perkasie, right, and have you be their mayor, where can they
Great
find
town.
you and check you out?
Awesome town. Come join us. Yeah. So the Perkasie mayor part of it. I'm online, so you can clearly, if you want to get in touch with me, you can clearly, go to the Perkasie website, Perkasie Borough website, and you can contact me that way. But I really enjoy my experience as mayor. I'm not a politician. I really am not, even though I'm elected official, I'm not a politician. So the far right, either side, right or left, my opinion is out of control. We need to be, as a community and a culture, we just need to be much more centrist. And really the bottom line I usually say is, treat people the way you want to be treated. Can we respect each other? Even though we disagree, we can disagree about whatever, but can we please respect each other and not be so hypercritical of each other? We try to run the borough that way, and I really enjoy my experience with a borough council that works great, and a borough administration. We do try to have each other's backs, and it's been a really good experience for me. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, that wraps it up, man. I really, really appreciate it.